5:33.
Yeah. Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, March 29th meeting of the Elder Care Committee. Do we have a quorum? Not yet. We do. We do have a quorum. I just want to thank everybody who came out to the press conference this morning for the senior tax exemption legislation that will be put on the agenda for next month, right? That will increase the income guidelines for eligibility to receive property tax reduction for seniors. And something that, long overdue, I think. And we're tired of penalizing people for having earned money throughout their life. And then when they get older, sometimes they're taxed out of their house. The house is paid for, and all their money that comes in goes to pay taxes, but this will reduce some of the taxes that they will be required to pay and when we pass it. And so I just want to thank people for supporting that and those who weren't there. But when you get the information, if you have any questions, it's going to come back to the committee. So, but I want to thank those that were there this morning and thank the staff for such a good job of setting it up at LifePath today. So with that being said, we're going to ask the council if she would call the roll for our committee.
Sure, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. McLaughlin.
Here.
Ricard.
Present.
Baston.
Here.
Chapman is excused. Camiso.
Here.
Cunningham. Here. Demolowitz and Moriello are excused. And Whalen.
Here.
6 present, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you so much. Can we get a motion for our first, yes, sir. We've got a motion for the first item on the agenda, approve previous minutes. Second. It's been approved. I made a motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. Our next item on the agenda, Madam Council, could you please read that?
Sure. Item 2 is authorizing an agreement with Eclego Workforce Solutions regarding recruitment services for Shaker Place Rehabilitation and Nursing Center. Mr. Slatke is here this evening.
Good evening, Mrs. Slatsky. Thank you for being here.
Hi,
Could you
good
just,
evening, everyone.
we had a few questions about this one, but we'll just wait until we hear from you first.
Okay, Eclego is a company that works as our human resource department. They do all of our solicitation through 20 different platforms to find staff for the nursing home. We originally went through CAB because we didn't realize how successful they would be in finding staff for us. We pay a monthly fee of $5,000 a month for the back office work that they do, such as reference checks and interviews and so on. And for every person who we hire, if we don't hire anyone, there's no fee. For everyone we hire, there's a $500 fee. We realized probably around 9 months into this agreement that we're going to pierce the $100,000 threshold of CAB. And being that we can enter into 3 one-year agreements with Eclego, it's really a 3-year, but 1 year at a time, that we're requesting, because we're going to go over the $100,000 in the first year, to make it a 2-year contract, and we'll determine if we're ever going to enter into the 3rd year. So it'll be the 9 or 10 months that we've already experienced, plus a new year, which the RFP allows, for a total not to exceed of $300,000 for them to continue the work that they're now doing.
Okay, so when I first read this, I read it that you were looking for a new 2-year contract, but the initial proposal said they're eligible for maybe 2 one-year contracts?
Correct, that's the way the RFP was written, that there's an initial year, and then we're allowed to renew for 1-year contracts for an additional 2 years if we choose. So, but it has to be 1 year at a time.
Oh, so it is 1 year at a time. It's not a 2-year contract.
No,
Okay, I wanted to be clear.
no. So
On that.
I put 2 years because if I didn't, it would look strange what happened the first year. So it really will be a 2-year agreement with Eclego. This is the 2nd year of the RFP that went out. The first year is already 10 months into the So I would be back here next week to ask for another contract. So I'm basically doing, at the same time, asking for the additional money because we went over the $100,000, so I could no longer go to CAB. And to add that second year, which is permitted under the RFPs.
Okay, so, let me, again, this is just for my cloudy mind here. The year we're adding on is making up to 2 years.
Correct.
We're not going, it won't be eventually 3 years.
No.
It's
If
2,
If
okay,
I do the third year, I have to come back.
okay, all right, that's clear. Anybody else have a question? Yes, Ms. Cunningham.
So is this a staffing company?
No,
Okay,
that's the
so,
difference. They're basically, I don't like the term headhunter,
okay,
but
so they're actually
they're on
recruiting.
20 different platforms, including like Indeed and Upworks and so on. And they do all of our advertising for us. So we no longer advertise for staff. We no longer do the initial interviews. We don't do any background checks other than those required by the New York State Department of Health, such as fingerprinting. But they do all of that work. They weed out those people that are not good candidates and don't qualify.
Okay,
They make our appointments for us, they set it up with the department heads, and we meet every week to go over our needs. And
okay,
they've been extremely successful. That's why we didn't think we would go up to that amount, but the issue that we traditionally have is not so much anymore recruitment, it's retention.
right.
You know, once we get them, can we keep them?
And do they have is there a requirement in the contract that the employee is retained for a certain period before
No.
they're paid?
It's this is one of the problems. It's our responsibility to keep them. Once they're one day on our payroll, we owe them $500
Okay,
because they've done all of this work already and
right,
they
so
want
they
to get
just
paid.
do it on the front end, like
That's right.
background checks, finding you good candidates with good resumes. But if they are there one day or 1 week and then they leave, they still get the
$500.
referral fee.
That's right. So it's our obligation, and believe me, I argued that point. I didn't win, but I argued that point.
Yeah, because they might not be leaving you for anything you did. They might be leaving you because they got a better deal, you know, at the hospital down the street or, you know.
Exactly. And then one of the problems that we had, and I stopped it, but then I started it again, they also recruit per diems for us. So, and if they put a per diem ad in, we got 20 applicants, let's say we hired 15, and they're mandated to work every other weekend, that's how we hire them, and hopefully 1 or 2 other days during the week. Per diems go all over the place. They're very fluid, whether they're gonna stay or not. So we're spending 500, and the retention was terrible. We hired 15, 10 would leave. You know, if we
On
made
the
them
per
work a
diem
weekend
or the
or,
full-time?
yeah, what?
On the per diem or the
They're
full-time?
per diems.
Okay,
So we stopped it, and we started hiring just part-time and full-time staff. The recruitment slowed down to a crawl, where we were only getting 1 or 2 applicants a week. I said, well, we better start this per diem pool again, even if we could keep 50%, 60%, if not all, but hopefully a greater number now. At least we're getting a flow of people, and then it's up to our staff to keep them. So we started around 3 weeks ago. We already hired 20 people
per diem.
per diem. Now, it's our job to keep them.
Because weekends
That's
are the
the
real
key.
challenge you have.
Yeah, we have to
Yeah,
keep
every
them.
place.
Now, we're paying a per diem rate greater than, I don't want to call them competitors, but hospitals, other nursing homes. Our per diem rate is excellent. So that's why they come. They see that ad, they're there. But when we start making them work, and they sign a document, how many hours they have to work every week, and they have to work every other weekend, and every 4th holiday. They agree to that upon hire, but then when we enforce it, they say, oh, I can't work this weekend. Well, then you have to make it up. When we enforce that, some people say, well, maybe I'm just gonna work somewhere else. So that's the key to try to retain them.
Mr. Ricard?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question, Mr. Slack, or a couple questions, actually. So, and to follow up what my colleague Joanne just said, so how long, the people that you hired on, or whatever you want to call it, do you have any idea how long they stay?
Well, there
Or
are
average?
some people that we hired 7, 8 months ago, they're still there,
Okay,
because they're adhering to their agreement. I would say it's probably from the initial per diems that we hired, I would say 30 to 40% of the people are still there.
that was my next question.
In the new group, it's closer to 70%,
Okay,
because we're doing things a little differently to try to keep them. We're more accommodating, to be honest.
okay, so the $500, that comes out of the $100,000 per year?
Correct.
All right. And so how much, you said you depleted it all, and now it's
We're probably a little over 90,000 now.
Okay.
And once I realized we were going to that threshold, I figured I better come back here and receive appropriate approval.
No, I understand. All right, thank you.
Ms. Whalen?
I have a few questions, I'm sorry, I might have missed, I might have totally missed this. I'm sorry if it's repetitive or redundant. So, we pay this company, you pay this company pursuant to a contract, $100,000 a year, or $150 a year?
No,
And then
that's a
commissions
not
on
to
top?
exceed amount.
Okay, so do we pay them a flat fee?
Yes.
And then referrals?
Yes,
So what is the yearly flat?
5,000 a month.
A month, so that's 60,000. And that includes advertising, or we pay for?
Everything.
All the advertising?
Advertising, interviews, background checks, references,
Okay,
setting up the interviews. They meet with us, we had a meeting today, we meet every Wednesday.
okay, and do they have an office in your building, or no, they're
No.
somewhere else?
Everything is remote.
Okay, and then,
They're in Rochester, by the way.
so it's 60,000 a year plus the commissions for the refer, like, that's like, if they find out.
60,000 plus 500 for every person we hire.
Okay,
Now, even if we hire per diem, and then we put them part-time or make them full-time, there's no additional fees.
okay,
So some of the per diems have joined our staff because they don't get benefits when they're per diem. And they want benefits when they see, yes, I want to work here,
yeah,
but I want benefits, and then we hire them.
so
But
there's no
additional
carryover.
fee.
So then, so if you take that all into consideration, it's around 100 or more a
I would
year?
say that if they continue on the same path, now, there may reach a point in time where our positions are all filled,
Right,
and then you're not paying $500 because we don't need anyone.
right.
Now, they've been unbelievably successful. I'm really focusing more on nursing with per diems, but they've been unbelievably successful in environmental services, dietary department, finding a social worker for us. We looked 9 months for assistant director of nursing. They found someone in a month. So they've been a lot more successful than we've been in recruitment. And they know how to interview better than us. I mean, that's what they do for a living.
So you take the $500 per head, let's say, how many, that's like 20 or 40 people? Or how many people
Well,
does
let's,
that come to?
if you did, let's say it's around, it's not a year yet, I don't believe. So if you take, let's say we paid 50 and we paid another, let's say 35, so it's 35,000, that would be around 70 people.
And that's about right.
That's about right. That they've given us over 70 people already.
Sounds like a good deal to me, right?
I think it's a good deal. I think it's a lot less than it actually cost us, especially
Yes.
with advertising and.
And you know, I walk into doctor's offices where I am a patient and they will have signs that say, please don't be mean to us, we're so short-staffed. So this is a crisis and we do need to make sure that our vulnerable population has good care, so thank
And
you.
I will tell you, this
Thank
is
you
a
so much.
special deal that they specifically made for us. This company traditionally will not enter into a contract like this.
Mhm.
The way they normally do it, they will look at our nursing home, see how many vacancies we have, and they only do healthcare, by the way. They don't do any other industry but healthcare, and specific to nursing homes. What they normally do is they would say, your company, all right, we're gonna charge you $200,000 a year. And for $200,000 a year, we're gonna find 200 people for you. You pay the $200,000, you don't pay anything else, and every every person they hire, up to 200, then they renegotiate with you. So they're required to find 200 people for you over time, or however long it takes. That's their commitment, that's how they do it. This agreement that they have with us is the only one of its kind, where we pay a monthly fee for their back office work, like the interviews, the advertising, et cetera, and then we pay the $500 per person on an ongoing basis.
Right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. This resolution passes. Second item on our agenda.
Item 3 is authorizing an agreement with Healthcare Hospitality Group LLC, DBA On-Site Healthcare, regarding patient sitter services for Shaker Place Rehabilitation and Nursing Center.
Okay. On-site healthcare will be a new company and therefore a new contract. They only deal with paraprofessionals, and that would be PCAs, that would be our need, which is not certified nursing assistants, but personal care attendants. And their primary responsibility will deal with handling the one-to-ones that are at the nursing home. We do not want to hire PCAs. New York State Department of Health regulatory requirements really want people who are providing that care to be certified. And our budget, by the way, does not have that title. It's either certified nursing assistant or nothing, or LPN, registered nurse. There's no PCAs, and we really don't want to change it because the requirement is that they be certified. However, we do have certified nursing assistants and other professionals providing one-on-one care, because the one-on-one care for 4 residents right now in-house are 24/7. They have to be watched all the time because of elopement, possibly because of falls. They're always walking around the building, wandering into other rooms, and it opens the door to numerous deficiencies. And we did receive a deficiency recently for what they're arguing is proper supervision of our day rooms, as an example, because someone fell and had an injury. This is somewhat related to that, and we're trying to really fix the deficiency by having PCAs through an agency, which is actually less money than we're spending now. We're spending double this. This would be around $28 an hour, but it would be for approximately 4 people on a 24/7 basis who are PCAs doing our one-on-ones. So we handled the deficiency to show that we now have appropriate supervision, the residents are properly cared for, and we're not wasting the time of nurses. Sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes we'll have, there are people who are grounds and other departments that work additional hours, because it's all overtime hours for the most part, doing our one-to-ones, because really you're just standing next to someone watching them. You don't need to have a certified nursing assistant do that. I could do it, anyone could do it. It's just monitoring someone so they don't walk out of the building or hurt another resident or wander into a room. So this company only deals with PCAs and handles one-to-ones. That's actually their advertisement. We got permission from procurement to utilize them, as well as the legal department. And we're gonna give this a try. They wanted, I put it down for a 3-year contract, $250,000 a year. What they asked for, because they did the math, was almost double that. But I said, not so fast. We're gonna give you $150,000 a year on average. Let's see how it goes, and then we'll work from there. But hopefully this will save a lot of overtime hours and have the right professional, really paraprofessional caring for our residents.
Yeah, this is more cost efficient, and people are left, the professional staff can give that medical care. This person can be just almost like sitting with someone to make
That's
sure
all they're doing.
that.
Literally sitting next to someone, so that, who are wanderers. One of the hardest group of geriatric residents to care for are people with dementia, where you get the least amount of reimbursement, and are wanderers or elopement risk.
Ms. Whalen?
Okay, so I have personal experience with this because my stepfather has dementia and is in in a dementia care center, and I've noticed that they wander all over the place. And they also go, if they can, they like to go into the other people's rooms, and we'll go to visit him and he'll be missing and they'll be running around looking for him and he's in someone else's bed, in their room, like wearing someone else's sneakers, and, you know, I kind of think that is a little odd and, you know, not really that safe, but these places are not providing one-on-one babysitting care for him. Like, so while I think that this is, you know, the safety of the patient is paramount, I'm also wondering, like, kind of like why we're doing this, but other facilities are not as conscientious. Is it required by law?
Oh, it's
It's-
definitely required by law.
I mean, these people are wandering all over the place, sleeping like all over, like Goldilocks in someone else's bed, and it's,
This
very,
is the problem. Someone wanders
and they're
into
all, they're
someone's
dementia,
room
they all have
who may
dementia.
also have dementia.
Yeah,
And again, this is mainly for wanderers,
Uh-huh.
not necessarily those with dementia, then we would need 20 people.
right,
But they wander into a room, another person may have dementia, but not a wanderer, or may know what's going on. Get out of my room, they push the resident,
Mm-hmm.
resident falls, breaks a hip, level G deficiency, okay? Or a deficiency. By the way, that has happened to us around 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Someone went into a room, the resident pushed them out of the room, they fell and broke their hip. We got a deficiency for that. We're fighting a deficiency now. I think, I hope, and I believe we're going to win this argument. A resident was there 5 years. In that 5-year period, you know, we're restraint-free, so in that 5-year period, the resident may have fallen, let's say, 15 times, no injury. Resident fell around, it's a year ago, by the way. Resident fell around a year ago, but they just came in now to investigate. And it was with injury. Resident hurt themselves when they fell, they hit their face. Again, had to have a couple sutures. Family complained, filed a hotline complaint. The health department came in a year later. They investigated the complaint and issued a level G deficiency that harmed her resident. I go, it was unavoidable. It's the first incident in 5 years where she actually hurt herself. She's fallen 15 previous times. You can't, even if she was on a one-on-one, you could still fall and hurt yourself. You could stand right next to someone and they could fall. Now, they said it wasn't abuse, neglect, or mistreatment. They said it wasn't reportable. They said all your documentation is perfect, okay? But we gave you the deficiency on the accidents. Well, I said accidents is either devices, okay, supervision, or there's one other, there's 3 of them. It's harassment. Oh, yeah, I think they call it harassment for some reason, supervision, and devices. So I said, it wasn't 1 and 2, so it has to be supervision. And even if you had proper supervision, such as a PCA, they could still fall and hurt themselves. Well, she hurt herself. I go, yeah, but it was unavoidable. They still issued a level G deficiency, which prompted this request to show that we're doing something. And I believe it may help, but
so my question though is, are these one-to-one coverage of residents going to be assigned around the clock to people with dementia that are wanderers? I mean, that's like
for
really
certain residents, yes, we
gets
do that
really
now.
expensive.
There's 4, yeah, it's very expensive. There's 4 residents right now that we
It's
have
like
on
they're in a
one-to-ones.
nursing home and then they have to have around-the-clock, like, one-on-one supervision.
It's not logical,
So
but it's
how
what
much-
they're demanding. The health department is demanding it right now. that
But it's in the
you
best interest of the nursing home.
Yeah.
If we're gonna maintain the quality of care that we've come to be known for, we don't want those deficiencies. So in the long run, I think it's better to be safe than sorry.
That's where they're at.
Right.
So how-
That's the way.
How much more, is this $750, what you think the amount?
Well,
would
right
be?
now, we asked for $750 over a 3-year period.
Oh, okay.
So we're averaging, we're thinking 150,000 a year. To give you another example, you know, we had a resident, also a wanderer, but kind of knows what's going on,
Uh-huh,
went into a female's room, and we found the two laying next to each other.
no, don't get me wrong, I've watched
Now what do
this,
you
and
do?
I
They
think
need
it's,
to be better supervised.
Yeah.
That's
I've
the
seen this.
argument.
I mean, I've seen this and I've thought it, I've personally, and I've, you know, as a lawyer, I would think like, wow, this is so curious that this is allowed to happen, not in your nursing home, but in other ones that are, you know.
Right, now we've only,
Yeah.
again, there's 200 today, I think it was 243 residents. We have around 40 residents on our dementia unit.
Uh-huh.
We've decided, and this has been the same way for around 5 or 6 months now, out of all the people that live there, only 4 people need this type of supervision. So there's other people that have dementia and may wander,
Yeah,
but they're not wandering where they're into other rooms
yeah,
and bothering other residents. That's the difference.
Mr. Ricard had a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll be quick, because I know my colleague wants to
Did you have your hand up?
comment too. Just a statement, and it's to follow up with what Jen just said. Many years ago, I had a relative who had dementia, was eventually diagnosed as Alzheimer's, and she was in a local facility in your vicinity of where yours are located. I went there one day, she was nowhere to be found. I walked outside, she was wandering around on the grounds. So, you know, it's not a good situation, and I can personally attest to that. And a lot of times you do need 24-hour care 7 days a week, sadly. So this is very much needed in my opinion.
And if a resident elopes, now we have like 10 different ways to stop a resident from getting out, from
Sure.
alarms,
yeah,
delayed doors, cameras,
Sure.
security, on and on and on. If you have an elopement of any one of these residents, why they somehow or another get out, it's immediate jeopardy.
Okay.
IJ it's called. Close to admissions, automatic fine, I mean, it goes on and on and on. So, at the rate of $28 an hour, which this is, it shows that we're making an effort to monitor those residents that require it.
Thank you.
Ms.
Thank you.
Cunningham?
Yeah, just a quick thing, and yeah, I have also experience with a parent with Alzheimer's for 12 years, so totally with all of you and the pain and just horrible. Just a question though, these are PCAs, so, can they help patients toilet transfer? Can they do things like that?
There's certain PCAs that can do all of the above. There's
Okay.
only certain things under the New York State requirements that they cannot do.
Okay, so
But
they
if we-
can,
If we train a PCA to do feeding, as an example, we have a feeding program where we can
Okay.
train people how to feed, including family members. Yes, anything that we train them to do and we certify that they have been trained, is each one of those things you just mentioned has X number of hours of
Right.
orientation and training. And once we sign off on it and they become what's called competent in that area, yes, they can provide
does
that
that
service.
mean they are beyond the PCA skill level now? They're like in a different CNA category or something? Or
Say that
they're-
again?
So once you train them to do certain, like toileting, transfer,
Right.
eating, are they now, what I'm trying to ask is, are they now sort of able to be used for like a broader purpose by you? in the-
Only for what we certify them for.
Oh,
But
okay,
unless they sit for the New York State exam to
Okay.
become certified
right,
and take the 50, let's say 50-hour course and 50 hours of on-site and then sit for the exam, they will never be certified. They
Okay.
will always be PCAs, no matter what we qualify them to do.
so when you get them, they are just PCAs that can just do that monitoring, they
Correct.
can't do other things
One-on-ones.
for you?
And
Okay,
like I said, we have a grounds guy that works probably 3 or 4, days a week, a couple hours a day, assisting with feeding and one-on-ones,
because he's trained.
just to make sure these residents are properly watched.
Do they go through background checks as any other employee?
Everyone goes through a background check that works for us, except those people who are already licensed, like a registered nurse, does not have to go through a background check, because that's done by the Department of Education. But if you're a CNA, we fingerprint you, background check. You work in grounds, you work in dietary, fingerprint, background check.
Ms. Whalen?
I just have one more question. Going to Joanne's question about what else they do while they're supervising the one-on-one. Can they, it's sometimes nice, do they like play cards with them, like war or crazy
yeah.
aids? Like they'll do that kind of stuff.
Yes,
They just
without a
don't sit
doubt.
there, right? They like interact with them and, yeah.
Just
Activities of
can't
daily
help with
living.
ADLs and
They could
stuff.
watch TV
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
They could help feed, just as long as
Yeah.
we train them to feed. They could do
Mhm.
many different activities of daily living, it's
Yes.
called,
Yeah.
ADLs. We have one resident, she's one of the 4.
Yeah.
She walks around the nursing home, literally 24/7.
Yeah.
She may sleep for like 3 hours. Other than that, she's walking. She goes by my office like 10 times a day, but someone's always with her, right? She just keeps walking, but we're afraid she's gonna walk right out,
Yeah.
and she has a tendency to walk into other residents' rooms,
Mhm.
and that's a big problem for us.
Mhm.
And, we have these other precautions that sometimes work, like we have these red stop signs,
Mhm.
okay, where we put them up there, they're Velcro, they stick to the door, and it says this big sign, stop. So sometimes they see it, they won't go in, so it helps,
Yeah.
but sometimes they'll just take it down.
Thank you. I'm glad to see all of these things in place, and I just want to publicly thank you for a woman that was put in the nurse at Shaker Place about a few months ago, and she has passed away, but I just want to publicly thank you and your staff for how they treated her the last couple of months of her life. And I know she was comfortable there. I felt very confident in recommending to her daughter that she come there, and you lived up to, the reputation. And I think I mentioned it to Mr. Camiso that a couple weeks ago, someone described it as, it's like a 5-star residence, so, and I just wanted to share that with you publicly.
Well, thank you. The staff do a job every single day, recognized by some, so I thank you so much for your words. But they're in it every day, and they just do a phenomenal job. I can't even begin to tell you the effort that they put forth every single day caring for the residents.
I'll move it.
Second.
Second moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
All right,
very
thank you
much.
very
Motion
much.
Thanks,
passed.
Larry.
Okay,
Thank you, yeah.
back tomorrow, I have personnel.
No further items, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you.